Described as a real estate dream, the old Dutch colonial had 6 bedrooms, a master suite, wood floors, and numerous fireplaces. Derek and Maria Broddus purchased the home for $1.3 million, and they were excited to begin the next chapter of their life in their beautiful dream home. Little did they know, their purchase would set off a string of mysterious events. They weren't the only ones interested in the home. There was someone else watching. Hello and welcome back to It Came From a Vlog. I'm Kate, and on today's episode of Curious and Clean, we're talking about the mysterious Westfield Watcher. If it's your first time on my channel, welcome. This series, Curious and Clean, is inspired by my love of cleaning videos on YouTube and storytelling. We're going to do a clean with me, but forget that canned music. We are going to talk about a spooky story instead. Today, we're getting creepy for Halloween while I fold laundry, declutter my daughter's room, and even tackle some home improvement projects. Let's get curious and clean.
657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey was built in 1905. Westfield is an idyllic town, a place where your neighbor greets you with a smile and a wave. 45 minutes from New York, the residents here are largely wealthy families. The boulevard was the place to live, a place where those who made it settled down and put down their roots, a place for families and late summer nights, neighborhood barbecues and trick-or-treating, and 657 was one of the most beautiful, coveted homes on the street. The home has been inhabited by various families through the years, but our story begins in 2014, when the Broddus family, Maria and Derek Broddus, and their 3 children purchased what they believed to be their dream home. They paid more than the hefty price of $1.3 million when they bought 657 Boulevard, though. They would pay with their peace of mind. Almost immediately after they moved in, they began to receive chilling anonymous letters from someone watching their home. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. The letter, addressed to the new owner, was in a simple white card-shaped envelope, but the letter was not a warm welcome at all. It continued, "How did you end up here? Did 657 Boulevard call to you with its force within? 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out." The letter was signed The Watcher, and it was the first of many to come, each one more disturbing than the last. Derek Broddus called the Westfield Police Department and showed an officer the letter. The detective asked if Derek had any enemies, but with nothing much to go on, the police were of little help. "All the windows and doors allow me to watch you and track you as you move through the house. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession. And now you are too, Broddus family. Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard, and now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know I will be watching." Terrified by the letters, the Broddus family stopped bringing their children to the home, choosing instead to continue living at their old home while the construction in the new home continued. When, if ever, would it be safe for them to move into this new home? The next letter identified the Broddus' Honda minivan and the workers renovating their home. "I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be," the Watcher wrote. "Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy." He made reference to the Broddus children and threatened them. "You have children. I have seen them. So far, I think there are 3 that I have counted. Are there more on the way?" he chillingly wrote. "And now I will watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again." Young blood seemed to be a running theme in the anonymous letters. In the next letters, the watcher taunted, "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood?" I requested. "Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family, or was it greed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. Will the young blood play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Will they sleep in the attic, or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better." The menacing letters continued to threaten and taunt, with a special focus on the Broddus children. Beyond the promise to lure the children into the woods, the watcher learned the children's name, listed them by birth order, and teased, "You certainly say their names often." The watcher made special remark about their daughter, who had been seen painting on an easel in the home's enclosed porch. "Is she the artist of the family?" the watcher asked. He continued to taunt the family with his anonymity. "Who am I?" the person wrote. "There are hundreds and hundreds of cars that drive by 657 Boulevard each day. Maybe I am in one. Look at all the windows you can see from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one." The letter concluded with a suggestion that this message would not be the last. "Welcome, my friends. Welcome. Let the party begin." There was never any return address. Upset by the lack of help from police, Derek launched his own investigation, reaching out to the former owners of the home, John and Andrea Woods, to ask if they knew who the watcher could be. One of the letters had specifically referenced the former owners, stating, "I asked the Woods to bring me young blood, and it looks like they listened." Andrea wrote back the following day, saying in the 23 years that they'd lived in the home, they had never once received a letter. That is, until a few days before they moved out. Their letter from the watcher made similar mention to the watcher's family history of keeping an eye on the home. They'd thrown the letter away without a second thought, but Andrea Woods agreed to go to the police station and make a statement. Detective Lugo suspected the neighbors. They were nearby, the opportunity was there, and as for motive, perhaps they didn't like having new neighbors after 23 years with the Woods family. Detective Lugo urged the Brodduses not to say anything about the letters to their neighbors. Why cause any alarm or tip their hand while the investigation into them began? The panic and paranoia set in. Derek canceled a work trip. Maria obsessed over watching the children as they played in the yard. A heavy sign in their yard, hammered in by a construction worker, vanished mysteriously, and the letters continued to come. Many of them continued to hint that something was hidden in the walls of 657 Boulevard. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will. The watcher asked the family, "Have you found all of the secrets it holds?" Detective Lugo interviewed the next-door neighbor. He had a clear view from the easel the daughter had been painting on the porch, mentioned in the letters. But there was no evidence, none at all. Derek Broddus launched his own investigation, crouching in the darkness of night, watching himself, watching for the watcher, hoping he could identify the person terrorizing his family. He even hired a private investigator who ran background checks on the neighbors. He consulted with a former FBI agent who was the inspiration for Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs to create a profile and threat assessment. He theorized the author was a voracious reader, but was unlikely to act on any of their threats. There was an underlying anger and possibly even jealousy in the letters, and a marked disregard for the wealthy. Perhaps the watcher was jealous the Broddus family was living in a home they couldn't afford. "The house is crying from all of the pain it is going through. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard when I ran from room to room, imagining the life with the rich occupants there. The house was full of life and young blood. Then it got old, and so did my father, but he kept watching until the day he died. And now I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again." Could the Watcher be a child of a former housekeeper, one who had roamed the halls wishing that he had lived in the home himself? Or was it just a diversion meant to distract from the true culprit? Maria Broddus began having nightmares. One night, she woke up to an especially vivid one. He was wearing these boots and carrying a pitchfork and calling to the kids, and I couldn't get to them in time. They asked a priest to come and bless the home, and they also installed a new alarm system. By the end of 2014, the investigation was at a standstill. The letters were nearly untraceable. They could have come from anywhere in northern New Jersey. Meanwhile, the letters were becoming more and more unhinged. 657 Boulevard is turning on me. It is coming after me. I don't understand why. What spell did you cast on it? It used to be my friend, and now it is my enemy. I am in charge of 657 Boulevard. It is not in charge of me. I will fend off its bad things and wait for it to become good again. It will not punish me. I will rise again. I will be patient and wait for this to pass, and for you to bring the young blood back to me. 657 Boulevard needs young blood. It needs you. Come back. Let the young blood play again like I once did. Let the young blood sleep in 657 Boulevard. Stop changing it and let it alone. The Brodduses filed a civil suit against the previous owners, the Woods, claiming they'd known about the stalker and hadn't disclosed the information when they sold the home. Emotional distress. But the case was thrown out. 6 months after the first letter, they listed the home for sale. They had never even truly moved in. When the story broke to the public, theories floated wildly around. Could ground-penetrating radar be used to search the walls in the home? Internet sleuths descended, checking the home on Google Street View and suggesting suspects, like a realtor, a mistress, or even teenagers just goofing around. A DNA profile pulled from one of the envelopes was a female. Some people even speculated that the Brodduses sent the letters to themselves. Had they created an elaborate scheme for media attention and book deals? They turned down several movie offers and released little information to the public on advice from their lawyer and police. But could it still all be a scam? 2.5 years later, the Brodduses were able to rent the home to a family with grown children, and they were well aware of the Watcher's letters. 2 weeks later, Derek Broddus stopped by to deal with the home repair, and the renter handed him a letter, written less neatly and more angrily than the ones in the past. Violent winds and bitter cold to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria. You wonder who the Watcher is? Maybe you even spoke to me, one of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the Watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. Good move. I walked by the news trucks when they took over the neighborhood and mocked me. I watched as you watched from the dark house in an attempt to find me. Telescopes and binoculars are wonderful inventions. 657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault and stood strong with its army of supporters barricading its gates. My soldiers of the boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher. The Watcher threatened, maybe a car accident, maybe a fire, maybe something as simple as a mild illness that never seems to go away but makes you feel sicker and sicker day after day after day, maybe the mysterious death of a pet. Loved ones suddenly die, planes and cars and bicycles crash, bones break. The renter continued to stay as long as the Brodduses agreed to install cameras. It's now been many years since the Broddus family bought the home, and it's still rented without any incident. The Watcher won. To this day, the identity of the Watcher is unknown, and the case remains unsolved. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Curious and Clean. I hope you enjoyed this spooky mystery. What do you think? Is the Watcher real or a scam by the Broddus family? Who could it be? And is there anything really hiding in the walls of 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey? I hope you'll like this video if you enjoyed it, and share it if you feel it's worth sharing, and join me next time here on It Came From a Vlog. Bye-bye.